Yeah, like the last two I got were important. The first one was from my wife telling me she was leaving. The second was from my lawyer telling me he was leaving. With my podcast, welcome to Additional Crew, where two non-experts review a film in a spoiler-heavy, free-form sort of way. In this episode, we bloviate about a movie that presents. In the colorful future, a cab driver unwittingly becomes the central figure in the search for a legendary cosmic weapon to keep evil and Mr. Zorg at bay. This is, of course, Luc Besson's legendary 1997 film, The Fifth Element. We'll discuss this movie in length later, so don't worry about that. We'll talk about it. For now, we have to welcome back the prodigal son, Andrew. Welcome back, Andrew. How has
Hey,
life been treating you, man?
it's been treating me well. Thanks. Thanks, Nick. And thanks, listeners, for staying tuned. And thanks again, first and foremost, thank you to the guest who stopped by and filled the absence while I was busy dealing with my school stuff and other life adventures. So thank you, Janice and Willie J, for stepping in.
Yeah.
And let's just jump right into it. Let me just say I had a pretty exciting weekend, to say the least. I went and saw Green Day for the first time at Bottlerock, and I'll get to
Damn.
that because that is like the ending. I'm starting Quentin Tarantino style from the end and starting from the beginning.
We've seen the bottom. Well, not the bottom. We've seen. Just go on. You're good.
Very well. I have seen the bottom of a bottle at Bottle Rock, and from this weekend, I went with my friend Ren, and we saw so many great like musicians that honestly, just going this Friday was probably the best lineup for me personally. Like it looked like a random playlist of songs I would find myself just like putting together in a playlist on whatever streaming service you would use, but in real life because you had E40, you had Remy Wolf, The Story So Far, Sophie Tucker, and Green Day. These are all artists that are some way tied together, but in no ways they're not because like they all have different styling of music, but the cool thing about Bottle Rock is they brought them all together in one spot. Oh, also Public Enemy was there.
Oh,
Like,
dude, that's sick. I'm like imagining right now like a this story so far song with E40 feature in the middle, and it would be terrible, but I'd listen to it.
and I'm glad you brought that up because I was so excited to see E40. We got there super early. He played pretty early, which was going to be great. It was like the lineup was all set up, and I was there waiting for E40 to get on stage for like, I don't know, before anyone even hopped on stage. It was like 15 minutes of me waiting in the sun. So I'm like, all right, it's hella hot right now, but I'm here. Let's see what happens. The 15 minutes go by and the DJ comes out. I was like, fuck yeah, E40 is about to come on. Let's do this. The DJ's warming up the crowd. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. He's going to play one or two songs. Dude, this guy went on for 30 minutes. I'm assuming because E40 was hella late, which fucking blew
Yeah.
because I wanted to see hella songs from E40, like fucking gay area he played, but I wanted to see like Tell Me When to Go. Uh, Yup. Like just other fucking hyphy bangers from E40, the Grandmaster of Hyphy. I wanted to see that all, but he arrived hella late, and I wanted to go see The Story So Far as well because I've never seen them before. I recently became a fan of their music like 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I believe now, and their performance was stellar. They did a really good job. Uh, One album I recommend anyone check out is Proper Dose. Probably the album that I got most interested in their music because again I'm pretty late to the Story So Far party. I didn't
They
really
had
get.
an album this year too, right?
They did, or
Yeah.
this past year they did 2024. I don't know the name of the album off the top of my head, but the song Big Blind is pretty good, and they played another song that was fairly new. I'll pull it up here in a second. But
It
their set was actually pretty good compared to what I experienced with E40, which hella sucked. Do you?
was it still in Napa?
Yeah, this was in Napa.
Which sucks that E40 wouldn't be there because I mean Napa's
He
not in the
was
Bay
there. Don't get
Area,
me
but
wrong. He
like
was there.
that's
He
fair.
arrived
Yeah.
hella late though.
I mean, because like he could rock that crowd. I'm sure a shit ton of people in Napa know E40. You can't be in that area and not know E40.
Exactly. And I was there to represent the 916 hella hard because I mean I'm not from the Bay, but like that music has uh back in 2004, hyphy touched the Sacramento so hard. Like we all felt Bay Area at that in that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
Bay Area craze was crazy back in like '04, '05, '06. Like at the height of crunk music, there was hyphy music right alongside it, dude.
They were shutting down our high school dances because people couldn't stop getting too hyphy. You know, like
Shit
we
was bad, bro.
the lights would come on and they'd be like, "Hey y'all, stop dancing like that. No
Yeah,
grinding."
dude. Before freak offs were freak offs, but we were like all in high school, so that shit was like mad crazy to like hear that kind of music and people just dancing like crazy to like that's the shit we grew up to. So like watching fucking E40 was gonna be a legendary moment, and it still was. Like I said, man, fucking Yay Area is a cool song to open up with, but I wish he would have opened up with at least Tell Me When to Go because I would have been okay with just hearing that one song.
Yeah, yeah. So my guess is he still played choices though, right?
Mm,
Oh,
I don't know because I didn't see it
oh, you
all
had to
the set.
bounce. So
I bounced. I said one song, and I'm done. Because like I said, I had to go reach out to the story so far. And the song that they played, "Jump the Gun," that was a new song they played that was actually really good live. So
sick.
check out the new album. Check out Prepper Dose if that sounds like your jam, like pop punk sounding music. But moving on, I also saw a band I forgot to mention, Sublime. I saw Sublime there.
They're not with Rome anymore, right?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, that's fair. If they don't say it, they probably aren't.
I don't know. They may have said something. I don't. Is that like?
It's Sublime with Rome. It was their singer, but they wouldn't just go by Sublime with this dude. They had to go by Sublime with Rome. I don't
Oh,
know.
interesting. No, they
Yeah.
were just staged at Sublime, man. It was cool. I mean, they played their hits.
Oh shit, they got the old guy's son now, don't they?
I think so. I think that's
That's
who
right.
it was. I didn't want to like make the assumption, but I'm pretty sure that's who it was. Again, I don't know. I'm not a big Sublime fan. Their Santeria uh, and all their like radio hits in the '90s they played. I'm sure you would be familiar with a lot of the songs if you heard it. They did a fantastic job. I didn't stay for their whole set because I had to run over to see Sophie Tucker, who I saw from start to finish, and I've never seen Sophie Tucker before. I only knew her from like two songs. Well, I say her. It's a duo. It's like Sophie and the other person's name Tucker, Sophie Tucker. So uh, they had a song called "Throw Some Ass," which was the first song I've heard by them, and I was hooked. Like, oh, this shit is like high energy, fun electronic music that's just like doesn't take itself serious. Like good times. Check that song out if that sounds like your jam. But dude, I can see this group blowing up. Like they've been doing this for a while, and they would deserve like a uh, a step up in their in their like pop class because like they are making pop hits and making music look fun on stage.
Yeah, that tracks. So you think that they'll be they might break radio waves. I don't know if that's a thing that people care about anymore, but they're there.
They are, and like if Charlie XCX is proof that it can be done, like just keep doing what you're doing with that type of music. Just keep making the music you like making, being a true artist, and just she is a true pop queen in the making. Sophie Tucker, check them out. Another band, and not to say the least, a great band. Green Day. They were fantastic live. I've never seen them live. They are one of the last living rock bands that still can make rock music sound pretty epic. Like I don't, I haven't seen rock music performed live in a long time like that, so it might just be my recency bias. But dude, all the songs, the performance were top notch. Like they really put their heart and soul on stage. You could tell like Green Day puts on a good show. Like, they're there for the fans.
I have one side Green Day story that I'd love to segue for just a second. If
Yeah, go for it, man.
so, back after American Idiot came out, that song, the eponymous song on it, American Idiot, was pretty huge. Me and one of my friends at the time, I would drop his name, but I don't know if he listens. We made a cover version of it for You the Man Now Dog website, YTMND. It was Canadian Idiot. And it was really stupid. Trust me, it was really stupid. But Weird Al also made the song Canadian Idiot many years later, and he never paid us. So Weird Al, if you listen to this, I expect a paycheck. Thank you.
Yeah, you need the royalties on that for sure.
Please.
Let's make that. Let's make that push. Weird Al, you got that movie money now. You made that movie with Elijah Wood, or I think it was Elijah Wood.
No, it's Harry Potter, right? No,
Oh, is it Danny Radcliffe? Dude, I
I
get
think it
Elijah
is.
and Daniel confused all the time, so that's my bad, Daniel.
They that tracks really. They do look very similar. Now, I'm super happy Bottle Rock's still going. So I got to back in 2013 go to the first one. Me and Janice, we volunteered, quote unquote. You don't do anything when you volunteer, but they let you in for free. You just like kind of wander away, and then you're free at the
That's
fest.
awesome. I'm not sure if that's passable today, but
Probably not.
that's a cool loophole
If you're
to.
listening to this, don't try to do that.
But do try to do it and see if it still works.
Yeah, but it's not because of
Yeah,
us. Remember
don't
that.
try to do it.
If you get there and they're like, "How did you learn this from?" Don't tell them additional crew unless they want to listen to a podcast. That that one we got to see the Flaming Lips, the Black Keys, Alabama Shakes, like the Violent Femmes. Pretty cool. I'm glad that they're still going because it was a nice, pretty nice festival.
Hopefully, it was at the same spot that you experienced it in because it is a nice area to experience that in Napa. It's like really like off, not the off the beaten path of Napa, but just like you're literally able to park in Napa and walk to the festival and not
Mhm.
have to worry about parking all that much. And you know what? That is such an underappreciated fact about going to festivals
Yeah.
is worrying about one, your car, and worrying about two, am I gonna get stuck in traffic for a
Oh
long
my
time?
gosh. Yeah.
I
I
didn't have to worry about either of those things, and shout outs to Bottlerock for giving me that experience.
Yeah, that's real. Me and Janice, when we went the first time, we parked in the lot closest to the festival, and that was a mistake. We ended up I went to sleep instead of leaving that night, and I think most of it
Understandably
later.
so,
Yeah.
because like, dude, I was also stupid tired by the end because, dude, mixing wine and heat is not a good combination, man.
No, no.
That will wreck you harder than you can even imagine. Like quicker too, because
Mhm.
you could think like I can hang. Not Bottle Rock ain't ready for me. No, you gotta drink water. You gotta stay hydrated. Sunscreen is your friend. I saw so many burnt red skin everywhere, dude. It was insane. There's not even like penalty of Bottle Rock. Again, shout out to Bottle Rock. They were handing out spray bottles. There was medical tents. Like there were spray bottles of sunscreen. I should say. But they were
That's
also
sick.
giving out free waters. Like there was a water station. Like this festival ran so smoothly. Like again, this is like a 10 out of 10 festival. If you're thinking about going, I highly recommend it. From the experience I just had, because like it's hard to go to festivals nowadays and not worry about the price of like food, amenities,
Mhm.
like things nearby. Because um, shouting out, not shouting out Coachella, because what's it called? I heard there was like a 4 hour, 6 hour traffic to this past year for Coachella because they didn't know how to traffic people into the camping site. Like there was people waiting for hours in traffic. Like that would boggle my mind, and I would be so frustrated to go
Yeah.
back to a festival like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the reason I don't go back to Hard Summer and some of these other festivals that I had terrible experiences. Bottle Rock, I would do that again. That was a lot of fun. And I
I
haven't talked
don't
about
have
Green Day
anything.
yet, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have anything negative to say towards Bottle Rock. I really remembered enjoying it, so I'm happy to hear that's the same. Like even driving in, there was traffic, but the traffic moved at a reasonable pace. And like, I don't remember the exact route we took there. It's been too long, too many years. But it was actually like a good view the whole time too. So even when we got stuck, it was nice. And luckily at the time we weren't in the car that overheated in traffic.
Yeah,
But
which would happen. No, this is best case area for like any festival, especially this time of year. Like, I think the hardest thing to deal with was my allergies, but that's not everybody's affected by that. I'm gonna move on from all my personal stuff to talk more personal stuff about my experience of Green Day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
their music was great live. They played basically all the hits you would hear on radio back in the day in the 90s if you grew up listening to Green Day. And like, it's crazy how many songs I still remember after not listening to Green Day for so long. Like, those songs are like embedded in my brain. Like, I've forgotten birthdays, but I haven't forgotten the lyrics to Welcome to Paradise. Like, it's crazy how a song like that will stay in your brain for so long after not hearing it. And just watching, Jesus of Suburbia and Minority live was like an easy checkbox for me. Like, I've loved those songs since they first came out. Like, and I still love them to this day. And to see that was absolutely amazing. So again, shout outs to Bottle Rock. One last thing I'll say about Bottle Rock, and it's not about the music, but more about a funny thing that happened because the person I was with, we were talking about like, oh, do you think we'll happen to see celebrities out at the festival? I was like, I jokingly said, yeah, Guy Fieri, because he lives out in Napa or like Petaluma or some shit like that. Like, well, for certain, see Guy Fieri, I say facetiously, but honestly, I wasn't half wrong because I saw someone cosplay as uh, Guy Fieri, full get up, goatee,
Sick, sick, sick. That's
flame
awesome.
hat. It was awesome. But as I was admiring the cosplayed Guy Fieri, guess who fucking walked by me while this happens? You will never guess. It was Adam Devine from Workaholics and
Oh
Pitch
shit, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, hell yeah.
Dude, I saw it happen in real time, and I had almost blurted out, "Oh shit, you're Adam!" Like, I had to cut myself off because, like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this to this guy. He probably doesn't want to be recognized like this right now. He probably just wants to enjoy the festival. I won't call you out like that, but dude, I had to hold back so much because I almost like blurted out everything. Like, I wanted to say what's up to him, but I'm glad I kept it cool in that moment. But like, if you listen to this, Adam, I don't know. You probably won't listen to this, but
Side note, how many times do you think this guy gets called Adam Levine?
oh, I'm sure it happens once a year.
I
It
would,
would be almost fair to say it's happened once a year.
I wonder if he goes with it or if he corrects the person. Like if they're like, "Hey, you're Adam Levine from Workaholics," he's like, "Yep, that's me."
Yeah, at this point, he just rolls with it, and he seems like the kind of dude who would.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout
Mm-hmm.
outs to that guy. Shout outs Workaholics, great show. But that's all I have about Bottle Rock experience, man.
Sick. Okay, I'll I've got a pretty quick one. I recently went to a show for the band Being Dead. So Being Dead is a relatively new, not super new, but they are a relatively new psych pop band, stylized very heavily on the 60s psych pop. With like maybe a little bit of punk aesthetic, but only a little bit. It doesn't impact the music too much as it does impact maybe the lyrics. So they had recently come out with an album, Eels, which I think is a phenomenal album. If you're looking for a song to check out off of it, check out Problems or Van Goghs. What was fun is that they had an opener called Nug. And I don't usually talk about the openers, right? But Nug is a local Portland band, and they were playing a show that they were seemingly very excited to play. and they killed it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Their album Kerfuffle, listening to it on a streaming service, was not into it, but their live show was great. And what was really cool is that I don't know how many people, but people from Shannon and the Clams were in the crowd. And from what I understand, some pretty big names were in the crowd. And they announced this on stage of Being Dead. And I'm standing right behind this lead singer for Nug. And this guy gets so stoked. I just have to share this because he was so stoked. Like his face went white and he's just like, oh shit, I just played that set in front of these dudes.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all I could think was, I'm like, but bro, you killed it. You nailed it. Like that was a great set. I don't know any of your music, and everyone here in this room was into it.
Oh shit, they brought the energy. Hell yeah.
They did. Like they did great. Um, I would say just keep an eye out for Nug. Don't listen to their first album. It's really not that good. If you see them live, that's fun. But Being Dead, excellent band. Check out the album Eels. It came out last year, 2024. It's got 16 songs, but it's only 39 minutes. None of them overstay their welcome. It's if you're like into 60s psych pop. And then just as the most quick mention I can possibly have, if you like pop punk and maybe with a little bit of screaming, it's like the right middle between pop punk and post hardcore, leaning heavily on the pop punk side. Check out Arm's Length's new album. There's a Whole World Out There. Such a good album. I can't get over it. It's
Arm's length sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're I thought they've been around forever, but I thought wrong. As far as I
Dude,
can tell, the first thing that came out was in 2022. But their new album is phenomenal. I'm very excited. Their band, I'm really hoping to catch live soon.
yeah, these guys are also Canadian. Like,
I
I'm just circling back to your Canadian idiot comment. Not to say that these guys are Canadian idiots, but you know,
I mean, you know,
they can call us American idiots if they want. I'd be okay with that.
yeah,
Understandably so, man.
yeah. A lot of anger between, but I Canadian music has always been in a good place in my mind.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. If it wasn't for Canada, I feel like a lot of our comedy wouldn't be as good as it is today. Like, there's a lot of good Canadian
mhm,
comedy
mhm.
stuff that comes out, and so like, shout outs to Canada, our brothers on top.
I can only imagine how frustrated every Canadian is. So, but that's what I'll leave it at. I can only imagine. Um, Andrew, I hear there's a couple more bands you want to talk about.
Other is and this group is very different than any group I've kind of talked about on our pod, and because it's very different to music I generally like to listen to, and I guess you can kind of generalize that it's Spanish music, but like you could say that about any type of American sounding music, like English sounding music. Like you wouldn't say those are the same. All English music is sounding the same. It doesn't. So
We've kind of like moved past that like world music section in
yeah,
a record
yeah.
store.
Like at this point, like music is music, and so like, but this Spanish music is way different than the Spanish music I've been listening to uh, as of late. Because I normally listen to reggaeton and like electronic music balanced with Spanish music, or just like new wave sounding Spanish music. Like that's my like go to when I listen to Spanish music. It's just like fun, energetic, and um, but this new stuff that I've been listening to, it's it's different in a way that it sounds very like rooted in like country sounding music using what I would call like back in the day ignorantly banda music, but it's not for me. It's not that anymore. I guess it's more people will generalize it as like regional Mexican sounds or regional Mexican music or like country Mexican music. I wouldn't say that for myself, but since the genre on Wikipedia calls it that, I'll go with it. This artist I'm talking about is Fuerza Regida. They came out with a new album this year called 2025, I should say, Simpatia, which I guess is a uh, not Nahutal language, an Aztec dialect. Nahuatl? I don't know. I'm not as Techian as much as I would want to believe I am. I don't know my lineage. I just know that I have some Mexican descent. So we'll see if that is what part that really falls under. But all that being said, regional Mexican music, Fuerza Regida came out with this new album, and it's just been, I don't know, something clicked with me because I used to hate this type of music because it is very loud and annoying at times, especially in the morning when I would hear it from my neighbors and their Chevy like pickup trucks, like in horrible speakers, but they like to hear it out of the truck for whatever reason. Shout outs to you for listening to that. I hate it in the morning, but live your life. And so maybe that also helped fuel my dislike for this style of music because it was always played in like the worst situations, like loud annoying party, loud annoying car. But I guess in some ways I get it. You want to hear these trombone sounds or like these loud ass guitar sounds. But for me, what I like about it is like the lyrics and me being able to like kind of like sing along with this this artist. And he's talking about like he's making like this persona that he's a larger than life, but it's just funny to see because it's coming from like basically Mexican country music, essentially, like I said before,
Mhm.
but adding like a hip hop aesthetic with like the way he dresses and way he kind of like holds himself. And the only reason these guys came up on my radar again recently, because I've heard this song like a year ago. I heard about this band about a year ago, but I didn't give them much thought because again, this is not my music. But I heard the song "Cero Sentimientos," which for me just clicked. Like all these songs just clicked. It's like so if you listen to it and you don't like it, you're fair. You're not wrong in not liking it. It's definitely not for everybody because it's not made for everybody. It's made for like people who honestly like hearing this type of like I don't know these sounds together. And again, I don't generally like it, but with this artist, it's not bad. And I'm warming up to this music more and more, and they make it more accessible, I should say. Like a lot of they're like surface level. Like they're like an intro into like if you want to get more into this sound.
They make it interesting. Now, I listened to a few of their songs off of this new album, um, and this is probably just a really surface level take here too, but because I don't know any of these lyrics. One thing that I think they sound a lot like that I think would be shocking is I actually feel like they sound a lot like crust punk, and I
Okay,
think
so you're
it's
talking
like
like give me a couple artists because I know which artists you're talking about. I think
so let's
is it a
say
Viagra Boys kind of like that or no?
no, not quite because Viagra Boys is a little bit more polished, I guess is the word I'd say. Where it comes to me is that the gruffness in this lead singer's voice here sounds like pretty close to I'm thinking like Days and Days, which is Days and Daze. Maybe some like folk punk, almost like Google Bordello, you know what I mean? Like it's got that
Okay.
folky feeling to it. And I think that's a really good crossover here because you've got a music that's pretty I don't want to say classical. Classical is the wrong word to use, right? But it's been rooted in history for a long time. Like this isn't just something brand new that's coming out.
No, for sure. It's certainly not.
And you're adding a whole new aesthetic to it, Like
Yeah.
this is if you look at the music videos or any of the pictures of this dude definitely I mean, I'll just say he looks cool as shit. And he owns it. So it's an interesting take, at the very least.
And their story is pretty interesting because they came from like what it sounds like small roots. Like they were a cover band. They would only do cover music and then they would perform live. and they slowly would build that fan base in their local area, which is San Bernardino. And maybe a part of me also likes that because I kind of grew. Not I didn't grow up, but like there was some formidable years that I lived in Barstow. And Barstow's pretty close to San Bernardino, and like those worlds kind of like overlap if you like you know travel from back and forth, which I would occasionally do, and you see the kind of lifestyles that people live out there. And this group really represents that, in my opinion. Like it's very heavily uh, populated with generally Hispanic, most predominantly Mexican people out there. Like there's just and it's because I believe from my experience and from what I've seen and from like when my family is growing up, like it's just like there's a lot of farm work out there, and that we tend to do a lot of field work growing up. Like I didn't, fortunately. Thank you from like my parents for letting me grow up in like a pretty well established privileged lifestyle. But for others, they don't get to get enjoy that experience, and maybe that's the experience that these people lived. I don't know, but like that's kind of like this is what the music they're probably listening to from what I'm experiencing when what I'm hearing and living in that environment from time to time. It's like it's a unique sound to me, but to them, that's like the shit they grew up listening to. And I kind of ranted and tangented. What I wanted to circle back to was like their, you know, how they've kind of grown from their small beginnings to where they are now, because like they literally with this new album landed a number two spot on the Billboard 200, which is
Sick, sick.
pretty fucking crazy when you break it down to like what music they're playing, and two, like who's listening to it. Like there is definitely um, Hispanic people listening to this in America, or I'm assuming this was a Billboard 200 like American listing, because again I'm getting this from uh, not a source page, but like shout out to Stereo Gum, who kind of put me onto this like chart. This would have gone under my radar had it not been for Stereogum pointing this out to me on my IG page. Like it's so cool to see the 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 grip that this band and this sound has kind of taken on American airways, because again 5 years ago this type, well, maybe not 5 years ago, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't see shit like this. Like a Latino band, a Mexican band getting an album on the top 200. Like it happened, but like it's doesn't happen often. So it's crazy to bring it up because it's uncommon, and so it's cool to see.
Yeah, and just to speak a little bit more to that, the Billboard Artist 100, they are ranked number 3 currently.
As of
Um,
like today, like right now,
as far as I can tell, yeah, that's what
that's
it
awesome,
appears to
dude.
be. They're the Hot 100, and ask me what the difference is. I don't really know.
I think the Hot 100 is like what's current and popular like within the week.
Yeah, so in the Hot 100, they've had 14 songs hit the Hot 100, but none have hit the top 10. So, but on the Billboard 200, they have hit number 2 with this new album. And you said it's Sin Pantia.
Simpatia, I believe, is the name of what they
Okay,
call it.
if you're trying to spell it, it's 111X Pantia. Uh, but if you look up Fuerza Regida.
Yeah, good enough.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
it's pretty
I
good.
read these
No,
things. And
and I'm not saying that in a like backhanded way. Like it's pretty good because most people don't even try, and it's cool to see people try. Don't feel foolish for trying to speak Spanish. Just try it out, and they'll correct us, and you'll be corrected. But we do it to make you sound better, not to
mhm.
make
Now,
you feel
and
bad.
that is different because if you look at the hot Latin songs built on the Billboard, they've had 13 top 10 hits and 2 number 1 hits. So the top 200 is something different. And I think that's America because they also have global 200. And suppose I don't really need to go into a whole list of what the Billboard is, but on the Global 200, they've also had a top 10 hit. So they're doing well.
And again, they're second only to Bad Bunny with his well, the time that I had saw this, they were second to only Bad Bunny. Debí tirar más fotos. So, you know, Latin Gang is coming up, dude. Like it's
that's
crazy how many people listen to Spanish music.
that's sick. I mean,
The culture's shifting.
it's I don't want to talk politics, but it's crazy how one thing's happening on one side and on the other side something else is happening.
I
Just
know
saying.
it's scary times, but I've
It's very interesting.
yeah,
That's
I won't talk about it because I have my opinions on it, but I'll keep those to myself for now. And the thing I will say though is on this album, please check out Godfather, I Way, and another song that's not on the album is called Crazy with an extra Z at the end. So that's all I have to say about Fuerza Regida, a great artist, worth checking out. And again, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Totally understand, but give them a listen. Give them a try.
and I'm gonna keep it on you here, Andrew. So you've got another band you wanted to talk about and bring up.
Oh, last thing on music is just quickly check out Turnstile's new output. Like they've been putting out so much good stuff lately. Like they're coming out with a new album soon. Check out their single Never Enough if you have time. Check out their little documentary film that they kind of like tied in with that same song titled Never Enough. It's like an hour and a half. You only need to watch the first, I mean, like the portion of them performing live, which is like 50 minutes. But if you have time, sit and watch it. They were doing it for a good cause. They were doing it in the local hometown Baltimore, and two, they were doing it to raise awareness and funds for homeless camps. So like Turnstile is Turnstile is for the people. You know, every walk of life can enjoy Turnstile. If you have not checked out Turnstile, you're doing yourself a disservice. They are an amazing band. They're going to be holding that torch once Green Day passes it on.
And
Like,
just remember this: if you're like one of these hardcore dudes that's like Turnstile sold out, you don't have to be that way.
yeah,
It
you
doesn't
don't.
have to be that.
It
They
doesn't
can
have to
just
be that.
have success without selling
Exactly.
out.
Why wouldn't you want the music that you enjoy for other people to enjoy? Do you want? Why would you want to gatekeep that? That's so weird. Don't be weird about your music. Don't gatekeep something. I understand gatekeeping in certain places, but with music, it doesn't. You want to help your artist.
Yeah, yeah. Like this gets eyes on the genre as a whole. I mean, you wonder
Exactly.
why like hardcore is so much more popular now than it was 10 years ago. I have one word for you. It's Turnstile. That's what happened. Glow On came out and all of a sudden everyone was like, "Whoa, hey, I like this. Let's check it
And
out."
and that brings me to another point. Like let's let's make rock fun again. They make rock look fun. Go watch that Never Enough performance. You're seeing people just jumping off stage and having a good time. And that's not just one Turnstile show. That's always a Turnstile show. I went to one back in San Francisco. I didn't get to stage dive. I don't think the Warfield allowed it. But the crowd, the energy, second to none. You're gonna have fun at a Turnstile show.
Mhm.
And again, this just goes back to me saying, where is rock music that is just fun? You can enjoy the artists on stage. Look like they're having fun. They don't look mad at their at the people that they're performing for. Like I have been reminiscing and like nostalgizing over the System of a Down. Like that's probably like my favorite band of all time. And I know it's like not everyone's cup of tea, but I grew up listening to System of a Down, so I've just been going down this nostalgia rabbit hole of watching them perform live because I don't know if I will ever get the chance to see it, especially at the height of where they were when they were being weird, wearing face paint and doing like weird '90s new metal aesthetics, like when '90s new metal was just like always about being the edgiest or like having like in some way a gimmick, but something that made you stand out amongst the other rock bands, like Mask or whatever.
I think I call the height of that era the Scorpion King era, because if you want one album that like really showcases everything, it's just listen to the Scorpion King soundtrack.
But that was like that was like the high of and like the end of butt rock. Like Godsmack is, and if you like Godsmack, shout out to you. But like, dude, Godsmack sucks ass.
I need to listen to that song Voodoo again before I say
I
anything.
hated
I
Godsmack.
can't fucking
Dude.
remember how Voodoo sounds.
That is one band I could never get into.
You know,
That voice is god awful to me.
you didn't
But
walk
again,
alone.
shout out to you if you enjoy them, man. Love what you love.
Uh, yeah. So I'll move on here. I'm gonna just do a quick talk about Sinners. This is fast because Willie already talked about it last time, but he didn't give away anything. And I'm also really not going to give away anything other than saying that this Sinners is such a unique movie experience. It's directed by Ryan Coogler. Shout out, he's from Sacramento.
Is he? Damn. Shout
Yeah,
out.
and he made Fruitvale Station. He made the Creed movies. He made Black Panther movies. He has changed the way you can potentially get contracts in Hollywood right now, where he'll own this movie after 25 years, which doesn't sound that crazy, but it's pretty wild that a studio is willing to give up ownership over the movie.
That's crazy. Yeah. We
So
have a tight grip on that. But go ahead.
right, I love it. I'm so excited. I'm like, let these artists get their art.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler has made this movie with Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, who's in almost all of his movies, if not all of them. And it's like the weirdest setup possible. They make a juke joint in the early 1900s, and it's attacked by vampires. Which, if you watch a single trailer, it's not a spoiler, and I'm sorry if you consider that a spoiler. But it has some of the most unique representations of culture and what culture means throughout this movie, and it's neither like good nor bad. They're just super unique. And it ends up being this horror movie that I don't think is particularly scary, but is so interesting to watch and is so entertaining and intriguing throughout, that it is a movie that I understand is success now. Because I thought the vampires looked goofy. I was like, that's not scary. That looks really
Yeah.
goofy. And they were goofy, but you know what? It didn't matter because the point wasn't really like how scary they were on the outside. The point was I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't want to spoil it, but it's well worth watching.
Dude, I regrettably started writing this movie off based off the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after hearing the response this movie has gotten, I'll put my foot in my mouth. It sounds like a good fucking movie.
Well, I
And I'm
agree
gonna
with
watch
you.
it.
When I watched the trailer, I'm like, this looks like it's gonna be a bad version of 30 Days a Night or something, you
Yeah,
know?
dude.
Like,
The trailer was not helping it.
uh,
Get me
uh.
excited.
And it's hard to explain exactly what makes it so cool. There's this musical
Sure.
sequence in this movie that is just one of the most unique sequences that I've seen in a movie. And
Sure.
that's where I think the movie shines, is that it's very creative for what it's supposed to be. Like, it's a vampire movie, but it's just so creative, and it wears its message on its sleeve a little bit, which you'll
Okay.
see. But and I hate this because this is my least favorite thing to do. You do have to stay after the credits because the ending changes like what you just watched a bit.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Enough to where, well, maybe once I watch it, I'll have my opinion on it too.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I'm giving this movie a strong 8.5 out of 10.
oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah. Good one.
yeah, it was very good just for its creativity and how it was made.
Nice.
Uh,
One
so
last thing.
yeah, you got the last thing. I was gonna introduce it with the Aqua Teen Hunger Force song, but I couldn't remember it, so I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Oh, the Shake Zula, the Master Ruler,
Yeah,
Fry Lock
exactly.
on top, and Meat Wad, getting a little knock knock. I don't know, dude. Like, I have been loving Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I did a brutal rendition of the theme song. But by the end of all these seasons, I'll have it knocked down and ready to sing it. But I never skip the theme song because the theme song is so fucking good. It's a
Mhm,
15-minute
mhm.
show that is so easy to watch during a lunch meal. I love watching Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I used to enjoy watching it back in the day, but didn't give it much thought. And I kind of got annoyed by like how they looked and how the animations worked and how they sounded at times. But that was me with a child brain. Like I like fucking watching Nickelodeon shows and Cartoon Network shows.
Mm-hmm,
Like this
mm-hmm.
felt weird to me. But now watching it with new adult brain, adult mindset, like these, it's all in the dialogue with this show. Like this show is so fucking funny, and like the comedic geniuses behind this are so great at writing fun dialogue.
And this is accurate. I mean, how as a kid would you know about the Danzig episodes or the Foreigner episodes? You wouldn't understand it, not
No,
necessarily.
the Foreigner episode was hilarious, dude. All the the shout outs of the song titles, the
Mhm.
Moonanites. Oh, the Moonanites were always a character I loved even as a kid. Because I don't know, they're just stupid. Like they literally were like that was the height of Hot Topic too, so I'd always see like a Moonanite case for like the season 3 edition or some shit like that.
I had a Moon and Night T-shirt. I think my AOL Instant Messenger name in my freshman year of high school was Master Shake 1990. Holy
Dude,
shit, man!
that show has been so amazing lately. I can't wait to keep watching episodes because it's so funny. It's such an easy show to put on and just kind of like put it on the background and just listen.
It's hilarious. Even you have to be into, I guess, irreverent humor. But if you're listening to this, I would guess that you are a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think that's what it is. That's you perfectly nailed it on the top of the head. I don't even know what irreverent means, but yeah, it's that.
Honestly, I don't know the definition of irreverent either. I just know that a
But
lot
I
of.
feel like I like it that I've heard that word thrown around, and so that sounds like it would be that.
Okay, I looked it up while we were talking just because I wanted to be sure. So it means not showing due respect for sacred things or for people generally. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Hell yeah. Okay, so have you been watching the recent like modern episodes?
No, no, no. I'm starting from season 1. I'm still on season 1.
I know they are making new episodes, which is wild to me, but I'm happy to hear it.
I heard about this, and I think I subconsciously started watching for that reason. I don't know. I don't know why I started to pick it up. It's just one of those shows that, like, I wanted to watch this back in the day. I never understood it. I heard good things. Let's check it out.
Check it out, being another great show. But we don't need to segue to that. Sick. Okay, so I'm about to start the movie discussion unless you have something that you want to get out in the air.
No,
Sick.
let's get in the one, two, three, fifth, fourth, fifth element.
5 of them things. So we are talking about the 5th element. As I said earlier, it is the colorful future. A cab driver unwittingly becomes the central figure in search for the legendary cosmic weapon to keep evil and Mr. Zorg at bay. This is the 1997 film, 5th Element, directed and written by Luc Besson. He had help writing it, but from my understandings, he's been writing this thing forever. Starring a bunch of people: Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Gary Oldman, Ian Holm, who shows up on this podcast all the time.
Ian Holm has been like the centerpiece, the core of this pod.
Ever since I found out what Alien did to him,
Your
he's
poor
just
boy.
showing up everywhere, and I'm like, I love it when he's a human. When he's an AI robot, I hate that.
Yeah,
But anyways, Ian Holm's in this. Chris Tucker's in this with probably the most memorable role of anything ever. It's close. Chris Tucker's Ruby Rod, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a lot more, has got to be just one of the most iconic characters that ever existed in a single one-off anything.
yeah. You gotta deep dive on that because
Mm-hmm.
help me understand because I keep hearing this and I get it. Like he's loud, obnoxious, and like he steals the camera, the scene. But like, what about it? Like, I just don't know. So
I
you help explain that to me now, later in the pod.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get into it later. Well, let's get
Sure.
into it later. And then you also have Tom Lister Jr., who played the president. He died in 2020. And then someone else who's shown up a couple. Well, this will be the second time, so this will be the couple time. John Neville, who plays the general. He was Baron Munchausen.
The entire film was him, and I didn't even know.
Well, he was just in the beginning when he was firing. weapons and guns at the Shadow
Oh, okay.
Man's planet when the president's like, I don't know if we'll kill it, and he goes, well, thankfully, sir, I have no doubts. Something like that. It would correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but so this movie's got a ton of star power. It's got a director who was on a roll when this movie came out. He actually speaks on that, and he says that the only reason this movie was able to be
Well,
made was because of how well his last two movies prior to this, I guess his previous two movies to this, were received, and that is La Femme Nikita, which I've never seen, so I can't really comment on, and then Leon the Professional, which I have seen, and that is a phenomenal film. Have you seen either of these films?
I've seen The Professional, and I've seen The Professional.
Yeah, which is fair. So I mean, if you've seen The Professional and you don't like that scene where Gary Oldman eats the pills and then does the crazy like neck crack to the
Yeah.
Beethoven music, it's just one of the most off-putting scenes from a villain that I've seen. And so Luc Besson, he gets like a lot of creative control over this film, and he's allowed to make this thing. So this is a script that he started writing when he was 16 years old.
Holy shit.
So this was like the thing that he had in the oven since he was a kid. He rewrote it 3 different times, and it didn't even actually have Lilo as a character at first. Lilo,
I think it
whatever.
was Lilo.
That makes more sense to me. And then he got inspired by Plato, and this is what he says: Plato, the philosopher, to add the fifth element and Lilo. And so this movie is based on a Bible that he created on how to live in the 25th century.
That's insane.
It's wild. If you listen to this, like the and I suppose I should bring this up later, but I have to bring this up now. The language that Mila Jovovich speaks in this movie
Mm-hmm.
is a unique language written by Luc Besson, and only people who know this language are Luc Besson and Mila Jovovich. And they could talk in this language and write in
I was
this
just
language.
about to say.
Like, the dedication to the uniqueness of this film is probably the first thing I would say when I'm looking at it. It just stands out as there's really nothing else like this because they created very unique pieces and didn't even release them to everybody. So you have to watch this movie to see these things.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's just really cool in my opinion. Um, but yeah, let's talk about this movie. So, if you don't know, this movie's about 4 elements: fire, earth, wind, water, and the fifth element. The fifth element is human, the perfect DNA genome, and how they could fight the Shadow Man. I think that's what they called him when he was inside the plant.
Yeah. They got a phone call. What's his name? Did the evil villain Gary Oldman,
Mr. Zorg.
Mr. Zorg, and the secretary said, "We don't want any phone calls. I know, but you said to let you know when Mr. Shadow calls."
Mr. Shadow,
So
there it
I
is.
just know him as Mr. Shadow.
That's the only thing I know
And
him
that's
by
like that
too.
the entity, the destroyer, the thing that they prophesized would come in 300
hmm
years, right?
Exactly. It's that thing, that person. It The phone call scene with the I don't know if it's like blood or hair
Dude,
dye.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, "Where's the hole? Why is he bleeding like blood? But also, why does it look kind of like shit?"
It looks like tar. I don't know what it
Or
is,
tar, yeah.
but it was a strong design choice that I think really paid off because it really made that scene look nasty and it really made it seem like Mr. Zorg was scared. Um,
Yeah, because this is an evil person who, for the entirety of the film to this point, didn't show much emotions beyond uh, like calmness with this hint of evil,
mhm, mhm,
always, but never showed any subtle fear. And because he was being called because he was being contracted to find the stones because his understanding is that Mr. Shadow will pay him well,
mhm,
right? That's what
mhm.
he's basically being hired to do.
You're exactly right, and there's, like, some criticism on capitalism mixed up in this, that they would destroy everything just for more money.
Yeah, because Mr. Zorg is honestly a downright evil person.
Hmm.
Because, and you get this from the first introduction to him because he has like this person running towards him, and we don't even see Mr. Zorg at this point. Like we see him, but from the back view, and so he's has this hint of mysteriousness behind him already. And then he's asked like, "Oh, we have to fire like 500,000 people," and he's like, "Fuck it, fire 1 million." It's like, dude, I didn't say that at all. You just jumped the gun and just like automatically just are ready to just say fuck it all and get rid of these people out of my fucking company. Like that's so brutal to like uproot people's lives and like not give any remorse to ending people's like well-being.
And it's funny because so Gary Oldman has said that like he portrayed Zorg as some sort of cross between Ross Perot and Bugs Bunny. Now Ross Perot was a presidential candidate from the 90s, and I don't know really like enough about him to comment on it, but I guess that Gary Oldman thought he was pretty evil.
He must have, or maybe he just liked his accent because I was trying to think like, why is Gary Oldman using this really like southern sounding accent, but like at
Hmm.
the same time it sounds kind of like cartoony.
It was like Louisiana Southern, right? Like it was very high pitched, but still had the drawl to it.
Yeah, I'm just like, who are you trying to portray right now?
It-
Because I always get so confused because I, for the most part, only see Gary Oldman in American films where
mhm.
he's portraying an American like person, but he's British, and I always forget that.
Which is insane because he really is. It's hard to understate this. He sounded so American in so many movies that he's in. He's really good at adapting it.
Yeah, so it's like it's here. It's almost weird to hear him speak British in his native like sounding tongue because I've only seen you in movies where you speak so like rustic American.
And
Like even Governor, not Governor, the Detective Gordon, Commissioner
yeah,
Gordon.
yeah, yeah.
I can't think of the name. Commissioner Gordon, like he plays an iconic role in that, and he's just. I've always just seen him as Commissioner Gordon in that film. Like Christopher Nolan does a great job, just like really hiding, um, you know, the actor.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this, and again, in this movie, they did a really good job hiding the actor. Like obviously, we know it's Gary Oldman, but Gary Oldman leaned into this role as much as Gary Oldman tends to do.
Well, there's okay, and this is coming mostly from the special features of the Blu-ray that I watched.
Go
So
for it.
Luke has this good story about Gary Oldman because he had worked with him on The Professional, right? He's like, "Hey, this guy's such a good actor. I don't really need to do anything." He has the story where he had Gary Oldman do the same scene 14 times, and Gary Oldman got really upset, really depressed, not because he had to do it so many times, but because he thought he wasn't understanding a character. So, and Luke was like, "No, I just wanted to see you do it in 14 different ways because each way was really good." But that just speaks to like Gary Oldman. He was there for it, and he thought he was good, and he hit it. And I mean, I think almost everyone would agree now that Gary Oldman it really does hit his characters. Um,
He's had some slip ups. Maybe I'll talk about it on another podcast. But his discography is, or his filmography isn't unscathed. We'll say Gary Oldman has had some minor slip ups in his roles, but he knows how to pick solid roles, which is good. Gary Oldman deserves all the credit of being a fantastic actor.
yep, yep, and that's funny. I'm just thinking, you were talking about him not understanding or not hearing him often speak with his like English dialect. And I was thinking, I'm like, what movie have I seen him speak with an English dialect? And the only one I could think of off the top of my head was Darkest Hour, where he plays Winston Churchill, and he does not look like Gary Oldman. So it's hard for me to make that like connection in my head that that was Gary Oldman. But that's got to be closer to his actual like his actual accent.
Yeah, because I don't watch a lot of interviews of Gary Oldman, so I don't know how he talks
Yeah,
naturally for
yeah,
the
me
most part.
neither. Um,
But I mean, you saw the additional features on, the Blu-ray. Did probably discuss some things.
So they didn't have Gary Oldman on there at all. It was just all Luc Besson talking about the film and how it was made. I don't know if that was like some, maybe there's a special feature that, or a special edition that does have it, but the 4K that I had only had Luc Besson, and that was the only special feature, and it was him talking about all the stuff he did to make the movie.
Do you like that out of a DVD, like where it's less?
I don't know. It's not like a win or lose. Like it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm not usually huge into the special effects, or special features. Excuse me. I'll watch them for this because it's good to have like these interviews in my back
Sure,
pocket
sure.
that people don't always see. But unless it's a movie that I truly, truly, truly love, I don't really watch special features. Like I can count probably on two hands how many special features I've watched just because I love the movie so much. Um,
No, I was just curious to know if like that's something that you pay mind to or like add to like oh this level of like attention to detail in the or like the added features of a DVD made a difference in how you viewed
the
the product
film,
or the
the
film.
the way the movie looks on the screen, the way they've mastered it does matter to me. Just because if I'm going to pay extra money for a Blu-ray, it better look good, and if it doesn't, then I'm always a little disappointed. The special
And you got an
features,
updated version of this?
I got a 4K version of this, and it
And did
looked
it make
phenomenal.
it did?
Yeah, mhm.
Okay, so for our listeners,
Yeah, yeah,
just have a copy if you care.
check out, the intro, which I haven't showed Andrew yet, so he won't know. The intro is gonna show the case, so you'll know exactly what copy it was that we
Oh,
watched.
fantastic!
And the only special features I really care about is if they have, like, shorts from the same director that are, like, unreleased. This only really happens in the case of big directors, like, David Lynch had a whole bunch of his early shorts released on the Eraserhead Blu-ray, and that made me really excited to get the Eraserhead Blu-ray because I wanted to see that stuff. But other
For
than
sure,
that,
and that's just kind of what I'm
mhm,
saying. Like, I think there's only certain places you could watch that kind of stuff, and
exactly, and
that's
that's
on
the
YouTube.
cool part of it is I can bring some of that information out here, but I can't find that interview on YouTube, so
Exactly.
it's a win. Um, yeah, so we'll go back to the movie. So let's talk about Zorg. So Zorg is a man who gives a large speech where he talks about how by destroying, he creates productivity. So his weapons manufacturing company that I assume he's in control of, he believes that it creates life and creates productivity because it destroys old things, and that's how he justifies his existence day to day. He's clearly very clever, very cunning, overall pretty psychopathic, doesn't care about anyone else. And he is a good kind of third party character to kind of introduce that chaos of death and destruction.
Yeah, I think he's the on screen evil, but he's not. He's rooted in evil, but that's not his like his purpose. I guess yeah, that's his purpose. Like, because I get what you're saying. Like, he's the evil embodied,
hmm
whereas Mr. Shadow is like the
the
evil
true
part.
evil.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll just say this to start off. There's one kind of big complaint I have about this movie, right? And it's not big enough for me to just like to say don't watch this film. But the one complaint I have about this movie is that I think everything needed a little bit more breathing space, which
Okay.
is weird for a 2-hour movie, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
see how you could really do that. But with the way the characters are set up, they almost become a little bit too shallow for what they're trying to show because the main evil is Shadow Man. That's what we're really trying to stop this whole entire time. And when you lose track of that, and you see how things end for Zorg, and you see how things end for the I forget the name of the alien race that's attacking the ship. It feels like they become superficial just because they don't have enough time to actually let them breathe and let them have space. But and we can get back to that a little bit later. But that's my one big complaint about this movie is I think that this could have been. This is a movie I almost wish it would have been split into 2 movies or 3 movies because then you could have had more time to actually like explore this cool, really cool world that Luc Besson had created.
Yeah, I agree. And like I think that world he helped build helps create that interest of wanting an additional film to like kind of
Mhm.
expand on that because um yeah, like he's not saying this is set on Earth originally, but then they travel to a different planet entirely from what I'm remembering when they go to do the show, like some weird names, like but it starts with an F, Flor Floriston.
Yeah, I would correct you. I just remember Paradise. I think
Yeah,
that's the name of the
Paradise
hotel.
Floriston, and like, dude, going from that Earth to the world that the where the main conflict happens um, is crazy because it led me to wonder like, so you mean to tell me that in like the year 22014 or 2214, because this is 300 years later, before 1914 when this all happened, in 2214 people are still flying from planet to planet, but still finding themselves on cruises and thinking that's fun to do.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that could be a thing. I never been on a cruise, so I don't know what life experiences you get from being on a cruise. But like, dude, I think after space travel, why would I want to be stuck on a slow vessel?
You're right. I guess it's just like the idea of staying at a fancy establishment never really changed. That's still what people love to do. I I don't know.
But
It
that it just goes to show like the world building is
Mhm.
like leads you to like wonder and question certain things, but in a not in like, oh, that's dumb, but like, oh, that's an interesting.
It's
Oh
all
yeah,
super interesting. I think that's the hard part for me. If they like make some of it more stupid, Luke, if you're gonna make it go by so quick, like you go to Egypt in 1914, and these guys are unleashing these cool fucking alien tomes and shit, but that's only for the opening scene. And then you go to the cool taxi driving scene that's all crazy with flying cars and shit, but that's really the kind of only for one scene. And then you go to this cool fucking they're reconstructing people out of one DNA gene, but that's only for one scene. You go to a cool fucking space hotel where there's a cool fucking diva playing, but that's only for one scene. And that's my biggest complaint is that it's all really cool, but they have to go buy it so quick because they're making one movie out of all of it.
maybe that's what he was thinking. Like, I gotta get all my best ideas for this film all at once because I'm not sure if I'm gonna get a second chance at showing this again.
And that's likely what it is. So I guess Luke, I'm just asking for you to make a sequel.
And see, this is where the problem goes into like, why did they make a single a sequel when the first original was fine? We didn't need a um, I'm trying to think of a recent remake of a sequel. We didn't need a. I'll just go Anchorman 2. Anchorman 1 was fine.
Mhm.
We didn't need an Anchorman
Mhm.
2, but just because we were thinking we needed it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So you
And
think you need it, Nick, but in
I know.
reality,
And you're not wrong about that. I guess it's just the pacing is so breakneck for me, and in a 2-hour movie, it's wild that I would say that. Like
yeah. And I agree with you. Like there are so many great ideas thrown in this movie, like and like keeping it what feels futuristic and original, but still present is like crazy because like for one, I'm watching a movie that is old,
Mhm.
that made in the '90s, but it's talking about what life would be like in the future in 2214. But then you look at where we are now, present 2025, and like, why would we still be using telephones like that, or why would we still be using what seems like futuristic, but it's only futuristic because it was made in the '90s, so they had no like way of knowing how far technology could actually exceed.
That's the one thing that will always age these movies is the fact that people are still using landlines.
Because they like in some ways you could see in certain future movies they incorporated cell phones, but they were still new and like people like average watchers of this movie like in the '90s would be like, "What the? I don't even know what that is. How's he talking on the phone like without a line connected to it? How is he talking? Like
Right?
that's not a walkie-talkie. What's he doing?
It doesn't make any sense.
Like, but I get it. But like, and at the same point, like they had cell phones in the '90s, but they look like bricks.
It's true. That's true. Like, why would that be the successful thing? You never think it because no one carries that around, right? I I one thing I liked is that they still had McDonald's in 2200s.
And you know what? That's probably the most accurate thing. If
Hmm.
one thing's gonna still survive years and years of generations, McDonald's will still be there making their awful double
They're
doubles
still using the same patties, the same buns.
the
They didn't even
same
make any new
way,
ones.
like grass fed beef. Fuck that. We're just gonna make a fucking. Who knows how they're making McDonald's in the year 2214? I'm sure it's not gonna be fucking grass fed cows.
One thing I did want to say very specifically for all these ideas is that I really think Luc Besson took a lot from Terry Gilliam. And maybe that's just because we've watched a lot of Terry Gilliam movies on this podcast now, but like his designs and his future set remind me a lot of a mixture of like Brazil and Time Bandits.
I agree.
And he also had Ian Holm and John Neville. I don't think that was a mistake. I think that's him doing a shout out to these Terry Gilliam actors. Now, I didn't see that in any interviews or anything. That's just in my opinion. I was like, wow, if Terry Gilliam made the same movie, it'd probably look pretty similar.
I mean, you can't undermine the influence that Brazil probably had on this film.
Hmm.
And again, there's no way of knowing, but there's no way of not knowing. So what? With that being said, I'm pretty sure there's inspiration, from my
Hmm.
opinion.
Which good place to get inspiration for from the future.
Yeah,
Like if you want to make a future that in the late '90s, like think about the other future movies that were coming out. I immediately think like The Matrix, but they were dark.
Mnemonic, of
Yeah,
course.
they were like more dark, more based in realism, more based on noir
Yeah,
ideas.
very neo noir, very
Hmm.
dark, dreary, post apocalyptic always.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so you have this one that comes out where everything's kind of goofy and everything's colorful and it's cool looking, and that's just different. Like, please, thank you for bringing it back, Luke. Like, I appreciate that.
And 100%, this movie is very colorful. This movie has what I feel is a 10 out of 10 costume and makeup. And that comes with, of course, hindsight. We see the lasting, you know, impressions this movie has made on pop culture and like what it is to cosplay. Because when you see, I think I know more about this movie just based off what people would dress up as at time to
Mhm.
time. And I've never
Mhm.
been to any convention,
Mhm.
but you would always constantly see when people post about conventions. I feel like you would see a Lilo,
Yeah, yeah.
or
And
that's like a fun costume that most people would like to try to reenact for Halloween.
one of the things that I've seen a lot of is orange hair in like the '90s and Y2K aesthetic, right? And the only
Yeah,
place I can see that existing is from The Fifth Element, from Lilo. I don't remember people having orange hair during that time, and I mean, I was young, but I feel like I'd remember it a little bit, but this is the only place I remember it, and that was something that was happening.
and it's so outlandishly orange, but yet it works so perfectly in this world
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
like you don't really think too much about it, which is fantastic, and it goes to show the creative detail in the costume and makeup for this film. And just quickly, I want to shout out the costume director. At least from what I saw, I may be wrong, and I may have. Oh, you know what? I got to move over here really quick because I wrote it down over here on a different slide. But this movie has top-notch costume and makeup,
Mhm.
and I was trying to look up who that person was, and the only person that came to mind from what I was doing my research was Jean Paul Gaultier.
Okay,
And
okay.
it might be in the credits, in the opening credits of the movie. I may have overlooked it, but what I did on my IMDb research, I saw he was like one of the costume slash like had a great voice in the design for the costumes and such. And it would make sense because this person, for those who don't know, because I was completely unfamiliar who John Paul Gaultier was, but after doing the research, I found out that he is a very renowned fashion designer, fashion um, icon. And later, when I was doing more research and scrolling through his biography, I saw his cologne line. Was like, oh, I have definitely seen
Mhm.
his cologne in a department store
I
or
was gonna
Nordstrom.
say his name is so familiar as soon as you said it. I feel like they've talked about him on that Project Runway show or whichever one is the one where they make the clothes. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Runway is the model one. I'm not sure about the clothes,
Yeah,
but
it's one of them. They make the clothes and they have the English. Anyway, they talk about this guy because I'm like that name is too familiar for me to have heard it anywhere else. That's sick. I mean, look, we again Ruby Rod. Who else could make that rose? I don't even know what to call it. Unitard. Like,
oh, for sure, and like make it look so fashionably like fashion forward and for that world,
yeah.
like he's still like fashion's always about standing out,
Mm-hmm.
and like he made that very apparent with Chris Tucker's character Ruby. Like he
Yeah.
stands out amongst the what we think is outlandish attire, but wait till you get to see what Chris Tucker's character is wearing, because what you thought was outlandish with like these other characters, this is nothing
6 steps
compared to
back.
what you see. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I really do I like this shout out a lot because one thing that is also really cool in my opinion is Mila Jovovich's the strap outfit that she wears because it's a cool looking outfit, but it also fits perfectly into the story. She's recreated with this DNA, and then they put the UV protection straps on her, and that just turns into an outfit that she's wearing as she's getting away.
Hmm.
It's a really cool outfit for the idea that it also fits the story so perfectly.
Yeah, and I didn't quite understand where you were going with it, but 100% that makes total sense. Like what seems just like a medical like bandage
Mhm,
became a full on ensemble
mhm.
for this character who's now running and trying to escape in this unique costume design.
Yeah, yeah. And, like, immediately stands out amongst other films, like, you've never seen someone wearing this thing.
Yeah, and like it just goes to show how important it is to take advantage of what your characters wear on screen, because the dialogue is just as important as what the person is saying to what they're wearing. Like, and the reason I say this was like the reason I bring out costume designs to begin with was um, I don't know. It was weird to see Bruce Willis in an orange tank top,
Yeah,
but he rocked the shit out of that tank top, and
yeah,
I was just like,
yeah.
"What? This? I gotta find out who's the costume designer." After seeing him in that tank top, because like it's so weird to see Bruce Willis in that. Like I've seen him in a lot of other films that don't require him to wear a skin tight, high bright orange tank top, and that looks like his everyday ensemble. And but at the same time, is so unique for the character,
Yeah.
like so unique.
It really gives off that, taxi driving, like, aura, and I don't even know how you do that in a outfit until you see this.
Yeah, and like we haven't really touched on Corbin Dallas at
Mm-mm,
all.
not yet. Like, so there's so much in this movie, that's the hard part about it. So, Corbin as a character is awesome. I mean, this is Bruce Willis during his peak. We've talked about Bruce Willis before at Die Hard, but this is, like, after Die Hard, the post Die Hard Bruce Willis, right? And
And
he's just
as
cool
you're
as fuck.
saying that, yeah, as you're saying that, I'm trying to look up like what was he doing before this? Like, what was a movie that like brought him to the Fifth Element? Like,
I don't
because
know. Yeah, I can guess.
he was just on a heater for sure in the '90s. Like,
I'm wondering if this is the one after Pulp Fiction or if there's something in between.
this is definitely after Pulp Fiction, because Pulp Fiction came out in '94,
Mhm.
and you can literally put a script in front of Bruce Willis at this time, and if he didn't like it, he wasn't going to do it. If he wanted to do it, he was going to do it. Like, he
Oh,
could take
so
on any role.
he had done Die Hard with a Vengeance and 12 Monkeys and Last Man Standing right before this. So he had worked with Terry Gilliam right before this.
Dude.
Probably not much
Yeah.
of a stretch then.
the connections are there. The world is starting to like
It's shrinking.
intertwine.
It's nuts. So that's crazy. One cool thing is that Bruce Willis actually really wanted to do this film. He had told Luke that it didn't matter how much money that they had in their budget, he would make his agent make it work. Basically,
That's really cool.
yeah, and I don't know how much that means he ended up getting paid. I imagine it's still an okay amount, but Luke was worried. He was like, I don't even want to meet with Bruce because I'm going to love this guy, and then I'm not going to be able to cast him because he's the biggest star in Hollywood right now.
For real. Like,
And
that
then,
has to hurt.
yeah, and then Bruce was like, no, I love this script. I want to do this movie no matter what. Like, just get me in it. We'll figure out the rest. And
And
it
he
worked.
rocked the shit out of that
Yeah,
role.
yeah, he did. He did. I mean, so like he gets to start off as this cool like everyman in this crazy scenario, right? You get to the like you get that working class connection immediately. You're like, oh, this guy, he's been through the shit. But they also like establish his expertise so fast in the coolest ways. Like you see him driving his cab and he's just fucking good at it. And then you see him immediately take this gun from whoever that guy who came to rob him at his doorstep was. And you're like, okay, so this guy's got military experience. He's badass in some way. But he's also just a working class stiff who like needs to make rent and bills and checks, and his mom calls him and annoys him, you know. Um, and then he gets to turn into John McClane at the end.
Basically.
Yeah, like it's the best of all worlds. It's fucking cool.
Yeah, I and people who know me at work always give me shit. And rightfully so for the way I watch films. But I wrote this movie off the first time I watched it because I kept like stopping and starting, and it's obviously not a way to watch movies. It's obviously not a way I try to watch movies. It's not like I go out and say like, all right, I'm gonna split this up into 3 parts. No, I just get hella busy. But watching this movie for the first time, I did not appreciate it for what it was. I just thought it was an okay movie, but watching it again really brought new perspective on the costumes, new like the only thing that I did not like so far from my second watch, and it may take me a while, but I just can't get into the music.
Oh, really? Really?
Can't get into the. For me, it helps date the movie a little bit for me. And some of the music don't really play well on what's going on screen. One example is like the chase scene with the cops. You start playing. I don't know what you call this type of music, so I'm not going to attempt. But it just did not play well with what was going on screen with the chase.
It's hard for me because I think you're right. I do remember having a couple moments where I'm like, what is this, right? But then you have the diva song, and the diva song is just so it's unique, right? It's immediately to me identifiable. And it can be from a movie that I haven't seen for 15 years, but you play even one note of that, and I'm like, oh, Fifth Element, sick. And it's hard for me to separate those two. But I think I know what you're talking about exactly. Like there's some times where it's just a little bit too whimsical or a little bit too like I'm sorry, I'm listening to the scene in the background as we're talking. It's got like an Egyptian guitar in it, like an Egyptian sounding riff during this chase scene, and that is a little weird because they're going through like a city streets.
Yeah, and maybe with you saying that, they're trying to play back to what was going on in
You
Egypt,
did too
but
much though. You can't do
that's a
that.
stretch. That's too heady. That's
Yeah.
too much. That's too many layers for
Yeah.
me to think about.
And that's fair. I'm gonna give you that one 100% because that's 100% because I wouldn't have guessed it either. I can definitely see what you're talking about. I had given the music initially a pretty high score, but I was tunnel visioning the diva scene.
And great scene. You know, overall, but I think that's where I gripe about with this film because um yeah, I'm ignoring the first time I watched this because that's not the way to have experienced the movie. The second time was way more enjoyable, and yeah, this movie turned out to be a lot better than I hoped for.
It's just it's got these like really unique identifiable sequences, and I think that's hard to do for a movie where if you say like a 2-word phrase, I can know what movie you're talking about. Like this movie, I'm going to go to this car chase scene because it happens at the beginning of this car chase scene. Every time I hear the words "bada boom," I immediately think of Fifth Element, and it's not even that big of a part, but it's wild that you can create something that identifiable and that like unique.
Was that him? Was that had to be like part of the lexicon already? And most people were saying "bada boom," but I wasn't sure if that came from this
I
movie.
have
But
to assume that it was around before, but because Bruce Willis, his character Corbin knows it, right? He's like, "Yeah, bada boom, I know that."
okay, so yeah, for sure then. Like, and with that dialogue, yeah, it's so remember like it reminds you to that scene. Like
Mhm.
I'm definitely gonna hear that as well when I hear "bada boom." I'm gonna think of The Fifth Element.
Mhm. It's so hard for me not to like bada boom, big bada boom, and yeah, you know what it's from immediately.
So was Lilo like a vessel, or was she like an actual god? Like I don't. What was Lilo?
This is one of those things that I don't think they got to explain, which would have been maybe useful. Again,
Okay.
this is part of why I say they need sequels, is because there's a lot of like really good ideas in here that could have gone in depth, but they're just very surface level instead because of the time constraints. She just has
And
perfect DNA strain. Now, is she created with the perfect DNA strain? Is it just luck that she had a perfect DNA strain? Is she a stone of some sort? I don't know. But apparently that's an element, is perfect DNA.
for humans, I suppose, yeah, if you have perfect DNA, that's the fifth element
Yeah.
to have perfect DNA. She learned quick. She learned how to speak English, but then she also learned the horrors of what humans are.
Which, okay, that actually was a pretty goofy scene when she's like about to die, but she's like, but what about war? Like, bro. It was a little cheesy for me, that part. She's crying, about to die, and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Humans just kill each other. Oh
So I'll
god.
be the final killer. I'll take the sins of all.
Which was, um I did write down on my final note was Lilo be playing games with 1 minute left. I'm like, stop it, Lilo. You can't do this. She just really wanted a kiss from Bruce Willis.
No, she didn't. She said, well,
Not the
she did
first time.
under her circumstances.
Yeah. She was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna save humanity unless we get a connection going here, okay?"
Yeah.
Like, this is my final circumstance.
And this movie ends in the most 90s way fashionable.
Mhm. Oh,
Final kiss with the fadeaway. You
and
don't get that nowadays. You don't.
okay, so this is one thing. With the 4K, I didn't know if this was an extra scene. It didn't when you watched it, it didn't show them, inside of the metal tube.
Yeah, they're in the metal tube
Okay,
together
yeah.
and they kiss, and then the movie just ends and it fades out to credits.
Very 90s, very 90s.
Very 90s for a movie just to freeze on the still frame.
And it was such a happy ending for these people involved.
Yeah,
I
I can imagine how that must have felt walking out of the theaters. You must have been so like
You're elated. You're
blown away and happy.
like, "This movie is the best thing I've ever seen."
And it was constantly being shown on TNT, and I never wanted to watch it.
TNT, that's where it was. I was like, I remember watching this movie on TV like 3 or 4 times.
And I'd always skipped it, like, oh, the Fifth Element's on. I'm gonna watch something else.
Uh, one complaint I will have about this film is that I think that some of the acting from Ian Holm is pretty bad, and that's like the physical body acting. He makes it kinda a little bit too comedic in my opinion, like when he
Sure.
faints. And this is nothing against Ian Holm, but I think that maybe like his character was a little bit out of touch with the same mood that the rest of the characters were exhibiting. If
That could happen. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense with all of the different characters that were involved, right? There's a ton of them, so one of them having inconsistencies tracks. Unfortunately, I just thought Ian Holm on the scenes where he had to do physical humor, it was a little bit too much for me, a little bit too cartoony.
Yeah, with the whole him slipping out like the vents and
Yeah,
whatever, and
yeah.
like they just let that slip by. Like they didn't really like. I feel like they could have cut that out almost, but it would leave you wondering like how did he end up on the ship?
Yeah, yeah. They needed a way for him to get on the ship, but honestly, I don't feel like they did. They could have just been like, "Oh, he's stuck on the ship,"
Yeah,
and we'd have been like, "Okay, all right."
because there was a lot of like we're just letting things go by the wayside because the story's good enough to where like
Mm-hmm.
we don't need to make too much sense of all things.
Yeah, and his character, Ian Holmes' character, and Billy, played by Luke Perry, they were important for moving things along, but as characters, they weren't that important. And I feel like as soon as the Corbin wins the tickets to go on the cruise, they really just drop those characters off a cliff until they're in the room with the Stones again. They're like, oh, we have to keep them tagging along, but we don't really care about these dudes. Like who cares? But yes, they do have to be there when we get to the room with the Stones.
Yeah, and funny that you mentioned Luke Perry just because I completely forgot he was in the movie. But like they opened up his name with the credits because I guess he was a pretty big thing. I'm not sure at what point he's in the height of his uh, drama TV era, but Luke Perry was a strong name in the '90s, so I
Mm-hmm.
get why you would
Mm-hmm.
want to put him in your credits, opening credits, but he wasn't very good.
No, he's got to be the most inconsequential character, with the only funny part being that he thinks he can protect Mila Jovovich, and then he can't, providing Corbin the perfect opportunity to get his ticket back and get on the yacht trip plane. Uh, but okay, I said we talk about it later. I have to talk about Chris Tucker's Ruby Rod, right? Because
Yes.
as soon as Ruby Rod gets involved, because he doesn't come in until I want to say a little over the halfway mark in this movie. He comes in as soon as Corbin gets the tickets and gets on the plane. As soon as he becomes involved in this movie, every scene he's in, he becomes the focal point. I think even more so than Corbin Dallas, even though Corbin's in the same scenes, Ruby Rod is now narrating those scenes and you're seeing it from his perspective. I thought that was an interesting choice to make, but also, how could you not? Chris Tucker was such an enlightened choice for this role. I cannot see anyone else doing this role and having nearly as much success.
Yeah, this is pretty shortly after Friday, right? Like this, like I think Friday came out in '95,
That sounds right.
and so for him to take on, yeah, Friday
Yeah.
came out in '95. For him to come out with this, what I imagine is the next film he would do, if not, if he, unless he had something already lined up.
I see Dead
But
Presidents, but that was the same year as Friday, so I don't know the
yeah,
release.
for him to just like go from what he did on Friday and bring that into The Fifth Element was such a wild stretch for Chris Tucker's acting role.
I mean, he's so over the top, flamboyant. Still manages to get with the ladies, so you don't have to worry about the masculinity in this role. But
Yeah,
I mean,
and
he screams like he screams with the most high pitched scream you ever heard, maybe 4 or 5 times.
that's probably the most annoying thing about a Chris Tucker movie is having to hear him scream because I feel like he had like it's in his contract or some shit. Like he always has to scream or some shit.
He's like, I
He doesn't.
perfected the skill. You have to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if he did it on Friday, but like a lot of his Friday style acting shows itself in this movie. Like the way he like would shimmy or shake when he gets mad. Like his whole like he is such a body actor,
Yes, yeah. Hmm.
and it plays well. Like he does it well. I'm not saying this as a knock to him, but that's something you have to be like prepared for.
Yeah.
Because I was prepared for him to be flamboyant because of like what he's wearing and what I've seen on like previews of like again. I wasn't under a rock. I knew some characters from this movie, and Chris Tucker was for one of the reasons I wanted to watch it because like why is he dressed like this, and two, like why is he always talked about in this film? Like I had no idea. So when I finally watched it, it's like oh this makes sense. Like this is why people stick out the most with this character.
Hmm.
So
I going back to like his physical acting, I think him with the mic stand and the way he was using the mic stand and just tying it into this whole entire like on air show that they were doing was such a clever way to use Chris Tucker in this film. And his physical acting, like you said, it's not even a bad thing. It's just interesting because like when he dismisses people, right? He's using his hands, but he's also saying bzzz. Like the word means nothing alone, but with your hand it means like get out of here, go away. Uh,
Yeah, and that just goes to show like how much he can like make a simple word like that sound way more exciting and way more interesting to
mhm.
hear with his physical comedy. And again, I didn't even realize this was supposed to be a funny movie at first either.
It doesn't play super funny. It plays a little goofy with I think the alien designs, but maybe not funny. Like a little silly. But what I would say has I mean, Chris Tucker leads to the best laughs in my opinion. I think the scene where he's at the very end after they've just stopped Mr. Shadow or what have you, and Billy yells in excitement, and Ruby Rod's character Chris Tucker's like, "Stop it! Don't you yell again! There's been explosions, there's been aliens, there's been everything. Now get out of here! I'm
Yeah,
out." It's just funny. They do a good job at keeping the levity in there, even on these intense scenes. I think so. Let's see. Other than those guys, we didn't really talk about a lot of the side characters. I don't really. There's too many characters for me to get really wrapped up in a lot of the side characters. I will go back to Zorg and say that the one thing I thought was really interesting with Zorg, and this is Gary Oldman's character, is that he chokes on that cherry, and Ian Holm's in the room with him. And if Ian Holm had just did nothing, then Zorg would have been stopped. But
yeah, yeah,
Ian Holm being the good guy priest he is, and this is I think was to show how much of a good guy he is, saves Zorg in spite of the fact that he could have just ended this whole entire race for the 4 stones right there.
yeah. Because I wonder if this still goes on even though Zorg is dead. Like I would imagine Shadow will still try to.
Shadow would figure something out. And those that alien species, which I didn't write down their name and I should have, they probably still would have gone to the yacht to try to get it.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're just mercenaries. They're anyone can hire them.
yeah, and they did want to get on the yacht and they had ideas and they were able to take over the wait staff of the yacht.
So maybe Luke thought that through. It's like, well, they're still gonna find a way.
Yeah, he's like, okay,
So we gotta.
save this guy, save him.
So now we gotta show away how what's his name, Ian Holmes' character is such a nice person.
How he is really ultimately a good guy, even if he seems like he might be bad because of the way he treats Corbin sometimes. But I mean, so CGI was actually pretty shockingly good for 1997 film. They used it in ways that I think in most movies I would be really upset by, but by watching this film, everything was so otherworldly that the CGI didn't stick out too much.
No, yeah, the only time that CGI really like stood out to me is with the DNA write up.
Yeah, and the Mr. Kim's boat, Mr. Kim being the guy who
Oh
was
yeah,
delivering like it just looks so cool when juxtaposed with that crazy like car highway that they had out in front.
exactly. It looked like everything was moving fast, but he was moving slow.
Right? And he still had an oar and everything. Like I don't really understand how any of it works at this point, but it looked cool.
Yeah,
Uh the Mila was pretty funny actually. Also, I do remember she had a bunch
she
of
had
good
some good
scenes.
lines where like she kind of bumbled through them, but like in a good way. So it made what she said sound kind of funny and not whimsical, but just kind of like
Naive
oh
almost.
that's naive. Yeah.
The like the hollow pass part. That was a nice little
Oh,
scene of
that was
funny.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lilo,
Hollow pass.
Corbin,
Hollow pass.
Dallas, Hall Pass.
It's like they know you have a hollow pass. Hollow pass. um One thing I do want to bring up that was interesting to hear from the DVD commentary particularly was Pava Laguna, the diva. So apparently she did very poorly in Middle America. So like 20% of the not the studio audiences, but like preview audiences in films walked out of the movie during the divas singing
Oh wow.
in Middle America. That's what Luc Besson says. I don't have the data myself, but he said he considered removing it because
Jeez.
people told him they made the movie seem too European. But then in Europe, they were complaining that the movie was too American. So he's getting screwed from
No,
both
there was no
ends.
winning
Yeah.
on either end.
I mean I remember the diva as one of like the most highlight parts of the movie. I thought the song was cool, the design was cool, and then the digging through her body for the stones was so
Yeah.
like unnecessarily brutal in this film that hadn't been brutal up to this point.
What do you mean, man? Zorg's been blowing up people left and right for the fuck of it, just because he doesn't get his
And
way.
you're not wrong, but it's a PG-13 movie where they're sticking their hands in a dead body to pull out
Uh,
stones. You know what
but
I
it's an
mean?
alien, so they don't really recognize it as a
I
body.
think that's the thing. I think that
Yeah,
Luke got away
they
with a few
dissociate.
things because this was a
Yeah,
PG-13 movie, and Mila shows her breasts a couple different times.
a couple different times.
hmm I do wonder how he got away with this at the time. He was just like, "I'm French, it's okay."
Potentially, different rules
And to be
in the
fair,
90s. It's the 90s, man.
exactly. And to be fair, it wasn't like overly sexualized showings of breasts at any point. But
No, it was just kind of showing like what we all looked like at one point when we were being born,
mhm.
and that's kind of like what they were trying to show. The second time, I don't know what he was going for. Maybe it was for humor.
the
When she was trying to put on clothes in front of the
oh
priest.
yeah, it had to be for humor
Yeah,
because they were like turning away, trying to be nice. But it's one of those like this is like I can't I don't know, this probably isn't the right way to refer to it, but I can only think of it as like masculine humor where like everyone's turning around, but they want to look. That's what's funny about it.
yeah. There's a little bit of like tongue in cheekness about that scene.
hmm but it's hard to talk in depth about a lot more of this because there's such cool little points, but they don't elaborate on a lot of it. Like the police incompetence was pretty funny when they go in searching for Dallas Corbin
And you get the
and
wrong.
they end up getting just like the complete wrong person,
Yeah,
and that's how he's able to go still get on the yacht. You know, and the whole entire idea that every one of these rooms has a place to put your hands just in case the police come up to scan for you. It's good world building, but we don't get enough.
yeah. Let your imagination go where it goes with these type of things
That's
sometimes.
true. I know. It is true. You're absolutely right. Um yeah. Okay, one thing I'm curious to see if you like this or not. Okay. So there was a couple different points in this movie where Luke does this thing where he interposes different characters and different scenes into the same moment, right? So and
Oh yes, I we like he splits the dialogue from one to the other, where he's talking about like the stones are in the briefcase, and then Lilo starts laughing.
exactly, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, okay, you did like I
It
thought
kind of throws you off because you're not expecting it, so
I thought it was
it's nice to see.
for me, it was like a little bit of a mixed bag. I liked it when he was doing it during the explanation points because it kept the film moving even when they were getting heavy into the explaining, right? But then when they're doing it during the diva scene, I thought it was a little bit much. And also the fight choreography in the diva scene is pretty bad. I can buy that Mila Jovovich was knocking people out with like her backhand. It didn't look very real.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the fighting was a bit and like a lot of disbelief in a lot of the scenes, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker, not in this movie.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker for the film.
No, no. Um oh man, okay, so yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of ready to just give it over like a large overall if you are.
Yeah, let's knock this out.
Okay, so I wrote down some things here. So I'm gonna give the story a 3. While it is extremely imaginative in a well thought out setting, it is apparent that this movie was a trilogy smashed all into one film. Nothing is really given room to breathe, and many things could have benefited from it. It's not that it's a poor story; it's just one with so much potential that it wasn't allowed to reach. And I think that you can see a lot of that in just the way that everything has way more depth to it that you could explore and you just don't get to. Um, Acting, I'm giving that a 4. Chris Tucker alone could have made the film reach the score, and for the most part, the acting was very good for what was asked. Some goofy physical acting impeded what was otherwise a wonderfully acted film. Cinematography, creativity, I'm giving it a 5. It's helpful that the movie actually looks really good, but what other films can compare to a Terry Gilliam future picture and come out favorably? Incredibly eventful and fascinating. You can look at The Fifth Element, it carves out its own world and niche with great creativity and flair. Editing, pacing. The movie, I give that one a 3. The movie moves along at a fast pace for the most part, but nothing is allowed to breathe in a way that makes it truly impactful. Things look cool. Ideas are very interesting, but we're whisked way to the next spot before we get to understand what's happening. The pacing makes it nearly impossible to let this movie escape kind of that action romance and wander into a full-fledged science fiction idea. So then this movie ends up coming off as more of a action romance movie instead of the much deeper thing that I think it could have been. And this is probably where we'll disagree, Andrew, because I gave, and low key, I should go back and change this because you made a really good argument and made me think about this again. But based on the brain that I had this morning, I gave Music and Sounds a 5 because of the Diva song. It would probably be a little bit lower, but not low enough for me to change this overall. My overall is going to be an 8 out of 10. It's a great film. I think it's one that's absolutely worth watching. If my negative on a movie is that I wish you could explore more in depth these ideas, that's a really fucking good negative to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have
Yeah.
in your film.
Mm-hmm.
To want to like get like it gives you enough to feel fed, but you want more of what
Yeah.
you're providing, and I understand that
I
sentiment
would
for sure.
love a TV series in this universe, but I have no idea who could play Corbin Dallas nowadays.
No, yeah, there's Bruce Willis was really a person that we kind of like took for granted in that space because like I don't know something about '90s action heroes just are different than what you get in today's day and age for action heroes.
He was.
John Wick, is that like would you call that an action hero? I don't know.
I think it's fair to call John Wick an action hero, but he's so different from this because John Wick is this like expert professional who is siloed, whereas Bruce Willis was in everything you care about. He was an everyday man when he started, and that was the whole draw of him. Is like you can immediately root and understand Bruce Willis.
And yeah, and I don't know what actor can fill those shoes right now if there has been. And who knows? We might not get another Bruce Willis esque um, actor, but you know we can only hope.
What we need, Hollywood, is we need someone who doesn't exactly look like a model to be allowed
Yeah,
to act again, please.
yeah. There's a role for Brad Pitt, and there's also not a role for Brad Pitt.
Right. You need Bruce Willis who I like, and Bruce Willis looks great. This isn't a debate about that. I'm just saying he didn't look like this like Brad Pitt. That's a good one because Brad Pitt his
Exactly.
own
Like
thing.
Brad Pitt is, you know, pinnacle actor. Like you want a hunk to be your action hero
Mm-hmm.
or your star role. But sometimes you do want that every day. Bruce Willis type looking person. So fantastic job by Bruce Willis. Fantastic job
Mm-hmm.
by Nick Meyer. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and reviews on that. I'm ready to share mine.
Throw it down.
All right, yeah. So off my first watch, I was a bit underwhelmed. You know, fair fair on my part, but not fair to the movie because I got busy with what I had going on. But I don't recommend you watch this movie the way I did. Please watch this movie from start to finish. It's well worth your time because on my second watch, I was very overwhelmed by the creativity that this world built from Luke helped create the environment, the atmosphere. It was all well established on screen. Like there wasn't a lot I was second guessing, albeit some of the CGI was a little, you know, dated for its time, but you know, probably forward thinking for its time as well. Who knows? I didn't watch this in the '90s. I'm only telling you from what I see right now, and from what I see right now, it's not the best CGI, but the acting makes up for that well. above what you expect, because the acting on this is probably like the highlight of this film. You're either going to be a fan by the end or a fan of not liking this based on how you view Chris Tucker's acting in this. I was a bit annoyed off the first watch, but by the second watch, I was on board. This is how he is. I can't see this character being played in any other type of way. So, that's the beauty of the Fifth Element. It knows how to take itself not too serious, but when it needs to set the tone and help the dialogue move forward in a serious way, it does that very well. And so, uh, my biggest gripe probably is the music and how it doesn't fit well with what's going on screen at times. But overall, it's a film that makes you want to sit down and just kind of fantasize about this world that Luke helped build, because The Fifth Element is a fantastic '90s film that holds high regards for many, and for me as well. I'm giving this a solid 8, and with room to grow. Like,
See, that's it.
at first, I was giving this a 6 but that was because I didn't give it the time it deserved, and I finally did, and it's well worth the 8.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like what you said.
Yeah, and like you're saying at the end, like I wonder what 200 billion people on Earth would look like. Because they say that number, and they just say it kind of like passingly, and this is again one of those things. If you could think about it, it'd be probably pretty interesting. I wonder if like the whole
200 billion in the United States, because he's the president of
yeah,
America, not of the world.
no, you're right.
And so 200 billion, unless he's speaking on the world's terms, which also I don't understand how more corporate leaders aren't, not corporate leaders, all more political leaders aren't being, tasked to fight Mr. Shadow.
Mm-hmm. Right, like anyone else.
Why is this all based solely on Corbett in America? Isn't this a world problem? Isn't he going to destroy the world? That's the part that I guess I get kind of like outside of my head and like, that doesn't really make sense. I feel like if there was a thing attacking the world, I think all humans, more specifically nations, would try to combat that. But
Again, this is just that like I don't think they had enough time to get into
they didn't have enough
politics.
time.
They're
Yeah,
like, don't bring politics in this. You got this one dude, and he's somewhere else entirely. Just have him be the face.
for sure, for sure. And yeah, I didn't mean to go on a rant on that. I thought that was
No,
funny.
you're good. This is again. I want more. That would be so interesting because you could have multiple corporations trying to Zorg themselves out. It doesn't have to be one guy with the fluid dripping from his head.
So that's The Fifth Element.
Yeah. Okay. So the next movie we're going to watch is going to be a Thai movie, and it is the 2004 version of Shutter. And I'm gonna destroy these names, but as we said earlier, we try because respect on their names. Bonjung Pisanthanukun destroyed. Sorry, bud.
I
And
don't mean to laugh because it's just like
it's
you
bad.
kind
It's
of like
bad.
you sounded confident in the beginning, and then just slowly just.
I realized that I had ran out of breath before I got to my th, and I'm like, I'm saying this wrong, and then it happens. You get in your mind, and then Park Poom Wong Poom.
There you go.
They are the
And
directors of this film, and please do not get this mistaken for the 2008 American version. That movie sucked. You take American actors and you put them in Japan, and you call it a remake of a Thai movie. This is, capitalizing on the grudge and all this, but it is a very highly respected Asian movie from the early 2000s, and those movies, in my opinion, have been very good. I've never seen this one, so I'm excited to watch this one. If you're interested and you've never heard of it, check out a trailer. Some of the imagery in this looks terrifying.
hey, I'm here for it. I need a good scare.
Absolutely. So that's the next movie we'll watch. Until then, negative. I am a meat popsicle.
Stay tuned.